A fresh bean from the garden. That's right up there with our garden candy, our tomatoes. You can almost smell the nitrogen in the air. Guten yardening, everybody. I'm here in the front garden space, and I'm going to do a harvest today so we can show you some of what we have ready to come off of these plants here in a pretty limited front garden space. But we just had a wonderful rain. In fact, I looked online and it said we got over an inch of rain. And it seemed to me like this summer has been pretty dry, but in actuality we were only about 2 inches low in terms of the rain that we get on average. That surprised me a little bit, to be honest, but maybe it's just because the rain has been a little more sporadic, where we would get long stretches of nothing and then finally a massive rainstorm. But coming out to our garden after a rainstorm is one of my favorite things to do, because truly the plants look completely different. They're all perked up, they're ready for some attention. Well, without any further ado, let's go ahead and see what we can get harvested in our front garden space. All right, let's get started with some of our broccoli. Now, this broccoli actually created some pretty decent sized heads, but you're going to notice pretty quickly that most of these heads are really loose. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut one of these off. We've already harvested a couple of these out of here, but what you can quickly see is this is not the tightly packed head that you're really looking for with broccoli. Now, I think there are a couple of reasons why this could have been the result. One thing our research indicates is that if you have excess nitrogen, you could end up with a head that's not firm, compact, kind of like this. Now, I don't think we went overboard with nitrogen, but one of the other causes of this is inconsistent watering. And I tried to water this very consistently, but as I mentioned, there wasn't a lot of rain. It was very sporadic. So I think it's also possible that that was what resulted in this, well, imperfect, but definitely still delicious broccoli. Now, one thing, if you notice this happening to your heads of broccoli, you'll start to see some yellowing. The color will lighten up a little bit. That means that we're really getting close to this going to seed, to it flowering. We don't want that to happen. So if you start to see yours loosening up like this, it's important to get out and harvest it as quickly as possible. Now, a couple more things I want to show you in here. This broccoli head and this one, they look a lot tighter. I'm going to go ahead and harvest this one because I can still see some yellowing happening here, and I don't want that to happen. This one we're going to leave out here a little bit longer. The other thing I want to show you, and this is more of a space issue, if you want to leave the plant in, and we harvested this one about a week and a half ago, if you want to leave the plant in, there's the possibility these plants will continue to produce little florets off to the side. But again, that's more of a spacing issue. If you have the space to leave them out here and you don't plan to succession plant, then you can do that. There you go. That one's not bad. Again, it's a nice tight head there, but still we can see the beginnings of some flowering, so we had to get it out. Now, one other thing I noticed about the broccoli is, you know, broccoli is a cool weather crop. It really doesn't love that massive heat that can happen in the middle of the summer. And the broccoli that performed the best is in the shade of our green stalk here. So maybe that has something else to do with the way these broccoli performed. Right beside our broccoli, we have some beautiful golden bush beans. Now, I have always enjoyed the taste of a good bush bean. I prefer them to our pole beans, even though I know our pole beans produce more. I'm cutting these off instead of just pulling them off, just because I want to preserve the plant. Remember, when you're growing bush beans, the more you harvest, the more you're going to get growing on your plant. So as soon as these are ripe and ready to go, we're going to come out here and get them harvested. I harvested this one a little bit too early. Take a look at this. It's a greener color when it's harvested before it's mature, but that beautiful golden, almost yellow color. These are almost neon yellow. And of course, exceptionally tasty. A fresh bean from the garden. That's right up there with our garden candy, our tomatoes. This one has that really deep green bean taste that you get when it's raw. So good. Now, one of the reasons why we planted these bush beans here was to be a companion plant to our broccoli. And I've read a couple of different kind of conflicting answers as to whether or not it's a great idea to put beans in as a companion plant. I'd love to know your thoughts. You know, beans are considered to be a nitrogen fixing vegetable, but that nitrogen fixing that it does really applies to the next season, and the roots are left in the ground. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd also love to know down in the comments what your favorite variety of bush bean is. So if you'd let us know, we'd love to see it in the comments. Those are spectacular looking, aren't they? All right, let me get this finished and we'll move on to our next vegetable. All right, we're gonna move right next door to our cauliflower. Now this is an interesting variety because the tops of these are nice and white, but directly underneath that white part we have a purplish stem. It's pretty cool. All right, let me take you down to my favorite head that's developing so far. You can see we've just broken the leaves over top of it to keep it protected from the sun. There, take a look at that. It's like pure white. You can sort of see the purple a little bit, I think, down in here. Let's get the one that's not quite as tight right in here. Now you can see it's starting to come apart a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and pick this one. Look at those colors. I think you can see it better once I get it harvested out of here. You know what's so interesting to me about growing things like cauliflower? You know, it's kind of a struggle in many ways. You're trying to figure out the perfect formula to get the head just right. We haven't quite worked it out yet completely. I don't want you to think that we're complete experts here. You can see just a little bit of yellowing on this side. Now this, just like our broccoli, we're gonna have to take inside and soak in some salt water. You see that little butterfly looking thing? There it is. Yeah, and cabbage moth. I'm sure that we've got some loopers in here as well. So we'll get that taken care of. But I want to show you one of these that failed so you can see what that looks like. This is what a sunburnt head of cauliflower looks like. It's really yellow and it's just coming apart. It almost looks mushy at this point. And that is not an effective growth. Okay, let me get this cut out of here. It's not an effective growth of cauliflower whatsoever. Now you can see it in the sun. That is not the color you want to have happen. You know, if you struggle with growing some of these plants, there's nothing wrong with struggling. I was reading a Facebook post today where somebody asked the question, what is a garden myth that you would like to see gone forever? And one of the things that somebody pointed out was that people presenting themselves as though everything always works out perfect. That a fantastic garden means that you're getting a wonderful bounty all the time. There are no weeds, whatever. Well, we certainly see these types of failures here at Guten Gardening, but then our goal is to research and figure out how to prevent this in the future. It's not to say that everything here always works out perfectly, because that would be a lie. We're not ready to harvest you yet, but take a look at this okra flower that's about to open up. We've got some more in here. Pretty soon, we'll be loaded down with okra. Now, I already made it clear in a previous tour video that this little garden spot right here in our front yard space, this is our sweet potato corner bed, that's my favorite bed because I love sweet potatoes as far as in-ground goes. But this pepper bed is a very close second. We are loaded down with frying peppers and some of them are ready to be harvested. Now, what exactly are we looking for in our peppers for us to determine that they're ready to be harvested? Let's come in really close and I'll show you. Now, a lot of folks like to harvest peppers when they're still green. In fact, many farmers harvest these if you're trying to mass produce, and you'll notice that in the stores, these green peppers are cheaper. They're cheaper because they're not mature yet, which means that farmers can harvest them earlier, which means they can get the crop out to you a little bit faster. It's one of the reasons why if you go to the store, you'll see that those green peppers, green bell peppers, are typically cheaper than the yellows or the oranges or the reds. What we're looking for is a nice transformation in color. Now this one's headed on its way to red. It's kind of an orangish color, so it's not actually quite mature yet. This one, on the other hand, first of all, it's massive, but you can see that deep red color right here. That's the color we're looking for throughout the pepper for us to know that it's fully mature. Now I'm going to go ahead and harvest this one, even though it's not 100% fully mature. Here's the other side of the pepper. You can see it's still pretty green over here. Isn't that magnificent? It's like the color of fire. You know, many of us love to save our pepper seeds, and in fact, these peppers come from seeds that we saved from last year's crop. But your best bet, if you really want to have a high germination rate, is to wait until your peppers are mature before you go ahead and harvest them, especially if you're trying to save seeds. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but in immature pepper plants, when you open them up and those seeds come into contact with the air, you ever see them turn black? Well, our research indicates that the reason that that's the case is because they're underdeveloped and they just die. Well, if you allow these plants to mature fully, you're better off when it comes to the overall germination rate. And in our opinion, saving pepper seeds just makes sense. I mean, again, we're gonna get so many peppers from these bushes, all from seeds that we saved last season. I'm gonna take this one as well. Two beauties. Again, not quite fully mature, but these are gonna be very tasty with dinner. Let's check in on our green stalk really quickly, see if there's anything to harvest here. Our sweet potatoes are looking really nice in this green stalk. Wow, look at that, just covering. Here's what I'm interested in up top, our volunteer summer squash. Well, we got a zucchini here. It's about, I would say that's about 3.5 inches long. We've got another one down here. I mean, put my hand by it so you can actually see perspective. I don't think it's quite there yet. Another 2 days and we'll be harvesting both of those. All right, I've got some greens that I want to take out of here today. I know they're not these tomato greens. That would make you sick. Take a look at our tomatoes. They're coming along nicely. I imagine another couple weeks we'll start to see some of these ripening up as well. Well, this DIY vertical garden made out of a tomato cage, a couple of U-posts and some wire and fencing, and then this grow bag. Well, it's standing the test of time. This is getting toward the end of year 2. And in this one we have some of our lacinato kale, which I'm going to harvest, some of our curly leaf kale, and then take a look at the quality of these collard greens. One thing I've noticed about this vertical garden though, because it's in a grow bag, this thing dries out very quickly. Even with a deep watering, it wants to be watered every day. All right, let's go ahead and see what we can get off of here. I think this thing takes up a total of about, what, 1 square foot. This is something you can keep in mind. Simple little vertical garden, DIY vertical garden hack. Hey, we're getting produce out of this for sure. If you want to know the exact way we built this, let us know in the comments. Let me grab some of this curly leaf. This curly leaf over here seems to have been shaded out a little bit by our lacinato and our color greens. And these leaves look great. Not a lot of insect damage either. And you can see a couple of spots on here. A little bit of insect damage, but for the most part, it's in fantastic shape. Looks like I want 2 more off of here. 1, 2. All right, let's take a look at the entirety of our harvest. Well, not too bad, I think, for about a 10-minute harvest, where I think we probably took maybe 2 or 3% of everything that's out there. Remember, we still have potatoes, sweet potatoes, our okra, our tomatoes. We have a ton more coming in, so I think the next month plus is going to be pretty filled with harvest and lots of good food. You know, you don't need a massive space to grow plenty of your own food. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video today, and if you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.